Here comes the magic. I'm here to talk about love and manifesting your ideal relationship. You be careful what you wish for out there. In one moment, you can go from being single and floating to meeting your life partner, the love of your life. It can happen that quick. And I wanted to share this with you because it's not something that I alone understand. It is something that we can all do. As long as we are working to better ourselves, understand on a deep level what it is that we want. So it's very important that you understand what's going to serve you the best in your life. Former husband was the man who I had my ideal relationship with in the first half of my life, and now I'm in the second half of my life, and once again I have manifested my ideal relationship, my dream come true, because he is truly my dream come true. It doesn't mean he is perfect, and neither am I. With my divorce came my rebirth, and so as I closed one chapter of my life and saw the death of my marriage, synchronistically enough, I also experienced the death of my sister at that time. And so while I was going through this rebirthing process, the significance of receiving my divorce papers on the same month as my sister dying was quite a transformative process. You know, mourning, grieving my sister's passing, but I was also coming into this whole rebirth. I had decided that I was going to go and complete my degree and move to Portland, Oregon. I swore to myself that I was not going to get involved in a serious romantic relationship. Kicked around the idea of having a few boyfriends or, you know, being polyamorous. Oh boy, you be careful what you wish for out there, because I took a lover, and for the next 2.5 years, I thoroughly challenged myself to be in a relationship with this person, although didn't really respect a lot of his characteristics. But I loved him, and we spent a lot of time together. He was not one to be a committed partner. And so this is where the be careful what you wish for comes. Because while I didn't want to get involved in a serious relationship, and I kicked around the idea of polyamory or having many boyfriends, that's exactly what I got. He admitted that he really wasn't interested in monogamy as a relationship value. And you know, that was fine by me, because at that point, I kind of wanted to be free. Over the next 2.5 years of being involved with that person, I came to realize that my own relationship values are very much monogamous. And that was the gift, one of the gifts that I learned from this relationship. The challenges came, and the ego arose. Very many aspects of the relationship. I'm not condemning or judging him. He presented himself to me in his truth immediately when we met. And I chose to go down the relationship path with him. And when I say relationship, I want to put that very lightly, as we were in relation to each other. We were never in a committed partnership. We were also free to date other people, and that did not always go well. So while I was out there in the dating market, and that included being on it seemed like every dating app, going on many dates, meeting many people, running into a lot of dead ends and frustration, and then returning to what at that time was available, convenient, not always comfortable. So in other words, he always encouraged me to date other people, even though he said he was in love with me and he would get hurt when I did date other people. It was still something that he knew was necessary because he understood that my relationship values were very different and that he could not provide to me what I valued at the core, what my heart truly wanted. And so for that, I really respect him because he always encouraged me to continue to look for someone else who would be my ideal partner. Even though it hurt him when I, was out there playing the field. I was on Tinder, I was on Match.com, I was on Bumble, I was on, I don't even remember all of them. I met a lot of people, and I'm not going to discount the character of everybody I met because they are humans, and they were in the same position I was, which is to look for either sex, which sometimes I was just looking for sexual encounters. That didn't prove to be very satisfying. But I was also, always hoping that I would meet a man that would sweep me off my feet and honor me as the feminine goddess that I know I am. But there is also this other part of me which is very masculine. I am very active, I'm physically active, I'm physically strong, I love challenges, I'm always running up mountains, taking on the next challenge. I am kind of a brute and can do things on my own, and I'm very independent. I've traveled around the world and always looking for new excitement, new adventures, new endeavors, and that wasn't always attractive to a lot of men. An entrepreneur, a gardener, I was always in the woods. What I found with a lot of men is that I believe I was a little too masculine for them, and me being this strong, dominant female emasculated a lot of these men who were city boys. And I'm not discounting who they are, it's just in contrast, me as this sort of rough and tumble woman, getting to know a man who was born and raised in the city or had his roots in city life, there was often a lot of kind of step back and take a look and realize that's not for me. So I kept falling back into this relationship that was not ideal for me with this man who was very adventurous and physically active. He was resistant to certain aspects of who I was, and in his vocalization of that resistance, I was able to see where it was I was lacking self-esteem, what I didn't like about myself. He also didn't like about me. Relationship with that one man who was really my biggest critic, I learned to love myself to the core. Over the course of the time that I was involved with him, I was also going down a deep spiritual path of yoga and embarking on a quest to love every facet of myself. So as he would bring up these characteristics of me that he did not necessarily respect or enjoy, for instance, my expressiveness of my opinion. Sometimes throughout my life, I have felt that my opinion was a fault or a flaw. I was determined to accept and then appreciate and then love my expressiveness of my opinion as a strong female warrior. And once I had overcome that self-loathing, or that aspect of myself that I didn't like, and I learned to love it, then it was one step further that I moved away from him. It was just another mirror. Okay, I don't like this about you. Oh, okay, let me investigate that. That is something that I've always not liked about myself too. That's really a flaw, or maybe it's a strength. Wow, actually, it's a strength. Let me learn to love that about myself. And I took that information and learned to love those aspects of myself. I became less and less attracted to him. In fact, at the end of the relationship, I was repulsed by him. I broke up with that man many, many times, which was unfair to him. I should have either accepted him and the relationship as it was, or completely broke it off and never gone back. That was unfair, and I see that unfairness in myself as something that I could have done differently. I hurt him many times, and he hurt me, so we're hurting each other. That's dysfunction. I was dating other people with the hopes that someone else would come along, Prince Charming or King Arthur, sweep me off my feet, and then I wouldn't ever want to go back to this dysfunctional relationship. My higher self was asking me, are you really ready to end this completely and be done with him? And something inside of me would say, no. This is where I honor myself and my processes. Because I was not ready, I had not yet learned all of the lessons that I needed to learn through that relationship. So the relationship itself was dysfunctional, although it served its purposes. We kept each other company. We went on adventures together. We had many, many experiences together, and I learned a lot about myself. And through the learning that I did through that 2.5 years, even though I'm not necessarily proud of, my own behavior, I was often immature and very resistant. It was only through that relationship that I could have discovered these aspects of myself that needed to be loved and honored. If I had met the man of my dreams after my divorce, and he honored me from day one, I wouldn't have learned all of these aspects of myself. I know that if I had met this man of my dreams, this ultimate manifestation of my ideal relationship, if I had met him when I was on Tinder or whatever, I was not yet ready for that relationship, and he was not yet ready for me. This is where divine timing comes in. When I had finally learned my last lesson, or taken in the last facet of myself, my divine characteristics, who I am to the core, my greatest gifts, my ugliness and flaws and human nature and egoism and everything, just love. Just fucking love yourself. He was no longer attractive. I literally had no desire to ever speak to him again. That was beautiful, because I had been waiting for that moment for a long time. I had been praying for that moment, but I was still not fully in self-love, and so there were aspects of that relationship I was still being magnetized towards, still attracted to. I closed that door, and it was closed forever. The energy was cut off. Let me tell you something. That's when the magic happened. My Lord, I'm so grateful for the way divine timing works, because it does. If you trust yourself and you're on a spiritual path. And it doesn't have to be the path of yoga. There are many, many spiritual paths to take. Saying that you can't find the love of your life on Tinder or on Bumble or wherever. I wasn't meeting a lot of honest people on those sites. A lot of people present themselves how they would like to be, and then you meet them and they are how they actually are. That I'm not going to meet my ultimate love, my true love, on a dating app. And so I closed that door as well. I shut that down. And I had shut it down many times over, the course of 6 years. It's both exciting one minute and then very disheartening the next. But I had ultimately closed that door and came into a resolution that I was just going to be in the essence of self-love and mastering self-love as an individual by myself. And I wasn't going to put any more energy into seeking somebody. I was done. It didn't mean I was closing myself off to someone coming into my life, but I didn't want to seek. I did not want to look for him anymore. And it was one particular instance when I was riding my bike. I was feeling very lonely and despondent. And I came to a realization in this moment of feeling sorry for myself. Because I knew I was a catch and I had just been heading down the wrong paths to relationship. So in the middle of this bike ride and being at this emotional low, something lit up in my brain. And I was like, wait a second, I know how the law of attraction works. I know how to come into the energy of magnetizing what it is that I need in my life. Instead of focusing on how nothing works and no man is right and I haven't been successful and it's all led me to the wrong places, I switched it. Come into the energy as if he were already there, as if he had already arrived to my life. And I did. In that instant, I'm riding my bike, I'm on my ride, I'm living my best life, except I don't have my partner, my true love, my dream come true, my knight in shining armor. Literally, I had just said that to my landlord at the time. I'm waiting for my knight in shining armor to come in. He thought I was looking for a husband. I wasn't necessarily looking for a husband, but I said knight in shining armor. I corrected him. My higher self said to me, get into the energy as if he were already here. And so I did. And I got a flood of excitement. Like that feeling where you're falling in love and you cannot wait to see your true love again. I came into that energy. And at that moment, I just got so excited. And I was like, I know he's out there and he's coming for me. I know it. And within a week, it may have been that he already had contacted me, but within a week, I had identified him, my true love, my dream come true. I always try and recollect whether he had already started messaging me. A few men had already hit me up on Nextdoor, because they can see your profile or whatever. And I just ignored them. Well, this other man started messaging me about a video, I think second video I had ever published on my YouTube channel. And this video, it was a passion project. And something that I felt was significant to my life and the life of everybody living in Portland. And so I just put it out there on our neighborhood app that I had published this video as a follow-up to a discussion that we had been having on homelessness. And he went and watched it, and it piqued his interest. I don't know, he says he just thought that it was a great video about the issue of homelessness, but I'm in the video myself and speaking of my experience, and I think that's what really hooked him. Needless to say, he began watching my yoga videos too. And so he reached out to me and sent me a private message. I didn't really pay much attention except to thank him for appreciating my video and sending a message. He had a recommendation for Brian for potential work that he could get. To draw a correlation between me coming into the energy or the vibration of love and excitement that my potential mate was out there and that he was coming for me, because I was kind of tired of looking for men myself. I just wanted someone to come in and sweep me off my feet. My knight in shining armor. Well, it turned out that Sean, my love, is a welder fabricator. And so the armor was a little rusty, but he certainly had the ability to create it. So we began our exchange for about a month through the neighborhood app, and then I gave him my phone. Oh no, he gave me his phone number. And so then we began text messaging. I remembered the energy that I was in when he came into my life, which was the energy of love and excitement that he was coming into my life. And then he did. And it was immediate. And then we met in person, and the love that we found for each other was immediate. It was literally love at first sight. And there was a recognition. And I am not going to say that this relationship was effortless. Although the love was undeniable, I'm going to say that the timing was divine. Because it wasn't until this point in my life that I had learned all my lessons and that I was willing to self-reflect and love all those parts of me that I needed to. And it wasn't until that time in his life, because he was in a relationship formerly, that he was deeply committed to. Many areas in our life that we had synchronistic timelines. We divorced right around the same time. I was a few months before him. I was crossing paths with him, literally, although we never gazed at each other, or maybe we had. There's a chance we could have gazed at each other, because I was walking right by his grandmother's house almost 4 days a week on my way to school. And he was taking care of his grandmother at that time at her house. And then when COVID hit, I was posting on Nextdoor that I was offering free yoga classes, and he even responded to one of those posts, although we didn't meet until 2 years later. Even though we were geographically close, within a mile of each other for a few years, it wasn't until we were at the right place in our lives that, boom, our energies aligned, our vibrations were at the same level, and we came together. Our love was effortless. The relationship and the circumstances of our individual lives were not easy. He was headed to the desert in Nevada, as far as he was concerned. He was moving from the place that he grew up because he did not align with what the energy was there anymore. He wanted to escape. We both went from feeling a bit lost, floating, to knowing that we had just found our life partner, needed to be together. And here we are 2.5 years after that first meeting, and we moved in together immediately. He came to live with me 2 days after we met, and I have no regrets about that. It just was the circumstance that existed at the time. He needed a place to be that was safe and stress-free. He carried a lot of stress in his heart and his mind, but my home was a refuge from that. I offered safe refuge for him and protection from his current circumstances back then. He came into my life as a warrior protector, and I came into his life as a nurturer protector. And so our energies aligned in a way that felt so right for both of us. I offered the refuge and the nourishment and the nurturance of the divine feminine, and he offered the protector, warrior, provider of the divine masculine. If you are going through relationship struggles, or if you've been seeking someone to be your ultimately beautiful and perfect counterpart, there are things that you must ask yourself. One, are you in a place of the greatest self-love? Because that's where it starts. That's the most important question to ask yourself. Am I in a place of my ultimate self-love? And if you're not, then work on that before you seek a partner. Because if you are seeking a partner, then like me, you will attract the person that reflects back to you all of those things you need to love yourself for. You can be in a relationship while you work on those things, but it won't be the relationship that you ultimately want to attract. If we had met earlier, I think, and this is one of the ironies or perhaps the synchronicities of my life, when I left my marriage of 20 years, I was very certain that I was ready to be done with that kind of man who is a workaholic. He wants to be in the woods all the time. He's very absorbed in what his life on the land is and doesn't like to be around people. He doesn't like to be around crowds, I should say. And I was like, I want to move to the city, and I'm ready to experience a relationship with someone who loves being in the city and likes to do, you know, cultural stuff and fine dining and da-da-da-da-da, travel and all that good stuff. I found that man. My dysfunctional relationship was all full of those experiences. We traveled together, we dined around the city, he loved to ride bikes with me, he loved to go on adventures. He was all about being around people, and he even was loved to garden like I do, and he loved to cook food like I do, all of that stuff. He liked to do the things that I like to do, but he couldn't be who I wanted to be with. So when I met Sean, it was so clear that he was this sweet, considerate, loyal to I mean, like, that man is absolutely loyal. He honored me as goddess. He honored me as this beautiful feminine, but he also honored what this other man was slightly repelled by, which is my divine masculinity, my strength, my own warrior spirit. But this man, Sean, who I am deeply in love with now and want to spend the rest of my life with, is very similar in his values to my former husband. And right before I met him, I was talking to my daughters about my frustrations with seeking a relationship and men. And I thought, or I told them, if I could just find someone like your dad, boom, watch out for your own intentions, as is created by the mind. Watch out for what you wish for, because that will come to you. So at this point, I can tell you that I struggle with the same things with Sean that I did with my former husband, which is he doesn't like to be around people. He prefers to be working on things all the time. He's a workaholic. He doesn't necessarily love all the cultural things that I love, although he does love music. We align on many of the same things, but he's not an adventurous spirit like I am. But at this point in my life, since I've been through all of the other things and experiences and relationships, I understand that he is right for me at this point in my life, because he is the loyal, honorable, absolute divine man that I have sought for so long. And although he and my ex-husband, they get along really well because they are very similar in their values and, you know, what it is their loves are, he's very different in character than my ex-husband. But he is very much a grounded, rooted down, stable, strong protector, provider. And for that, I can see that if I had met him any earlier in my journey, that I probably wouldn't have been ready to go back to that kind of a relationship. But since I went full circle and I ended up where I was at, which is really wanting to have that energy in my life again, that loyal, steady partner, the one that devoted himself to our relationship, and he does in a way that my former husband could not have. Sean is absolutely devoted and so deeply connected to me through his communication. Attentiveness to relationship is what Sean's all about. The romance and the emotional connection that I've always desired and I have never had before in my life. So you may be in a place right now where you feel despondent about your relationship circumstances. You will only attract your best relationship once you get into the excitement and the knowing, and with a deep foundation of self-love. That is when you will be ripe for the relationship to come into your life that will serve you and your highest self the best. And know that it can happen in one day. In one moment, you can go from being single and floating to meeting your life partner, the love of your life. It can happen that quick. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to move them in with you. I don't necessarily recommend that. Although for me, it worked just right. It was perfect. And I would have it no other way, because I actually, really on a deep level, didn't want to have to go through the whole getting to know you and working with each other's schedules and, oh, how often does he want to see me? And, you know, that whole, like, I didn't even want to deal with that anymore. I just wanted to meet someone and know that they were the love of my life and to fall into our life together. That is truly what I was desiring, and that is exactly what I got. So know that the bright side begins in you. It's not out there. Your ultimate love begins in your own heart and loving every aspect of who you are. And once you see all of your most wonderful attributes and you recognize the wonder of yourself as being amazing, then someone will see you as well in that way. But if you have insecurities, self-loathing, things about yourself that you don't necessarily like, why are you going to put yourself out there at that time? Is what you will attract, is someone who sees those things as well. So you want to love every aspect of yourself, and if you need to change aspects of yourself, then change them before you attract the next person to your life. Because you don't want your next relationship to be a reflection of what you do not like about yourself. I had been on a journey of self-improvement and self-love. So I was already living my best life when Sean came into my life. I was already a picture of health and a picture of who I wanted to be at my core. And that is why I attracted my dream come true. I didn't expect a relationship to come into my life and then to work on myself. That's not the way the law of attraction works. It's really simply becoming who you want to be to your core, and then you'll attract who it is that you desire. Because if you're living your best, then you wouldn't want to settle for anything less. I hope that helps. If it did, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And I thank you so much. Namaste.